You can take away somebody's eyesight, but you can't take away somebody's vision. When I started Children in Crossfire, I just wanted to help children. I wanted to help children who weren't as lucky as me. And that might sound very strange coming from somebody who was blinded as a 10-year-old boy.
Rich countries give poor countries $5 billion a year, an average over the last 10 years in aid. The rich governments give the poor governments $50 billion a year, every year for the past 10 years in official aid. But the problem is we're taking back $500 billion every year for the past 10 years.
The most important issue in the world!
With issues that are very important, like who are we and what is our role on the planet and how do we connect to other individuals? I mean, to me, those are core fundamental questions that we all have to ask ourselves. And I believe that good art, generally on some level, however subtle or far removed, is engaging those fundamental questions.
I was lucky because I come from a good family, good community, support networks. I had choices and opportunities available to me, even as a blind person. And I began to realise there were children in other parts of the world that didn't have that.
Children Crossfire was set up over 10 years ago. It's an international NGO. It was set up in the fight against global poverty and working in children's rights projects in Tanzania and Ethiopia and the Gambia. But part of that work is raising awareness here locally about why those projects are needed in the first place, why such inequality exists and the causes of that poverty. Because very often what we see as poverty is a symptom of a bigger problem. Our education work was designed to raise awareness locally about those issues and about the role people can play in making a difference and making the world a better place and a fairer place. So this project was called 8 Good Reasons on the basis of the 8 Millennium Development Goals, and these goals were signed at the turn of the millennium by the United Nations. So we thought that was a good framework to work with in schools, and we actually had a small pilot project with schools, and the teachers seemed to like the kind of structure of it. So we thought, well, it's a framework to do global education around. The idea then also came from me seeing some street theatre that was going on locally, and it was about local issues around sectarianism, and saw pieces of street theatre and just realising the power of theatre. And we just thought we should really be using the arts in global education to engage people in it and to see their connection with it.
People are too set in their ways. It's been going on for years.
Year one was preparing the schools for the project, and that really involved doing intensive teacher training with teachers on not just the methodologies, participative methods of engaging young people, but also on the issues, global justice issues, and dealing with contentious issues in the classroom.
Sometimes children can be so blinded by, let's do it fast, let's get a silent class and we'll raise £20. And I think it makes a more meaningful experience when they know why they're doing that. And Children Crossfire put so much into that. So that's what I got out of the title.
You sometimes maybe don't give them enough credit for how much knowledge they actually have and how interested they are in some of the issues, and that they can really get their point across.
This is what's happening now. You know what's happening. It's not something that's happened in the past. It's not something they're reading in a book. It's something that people have witnessed, and something then that people are trying to do something about.
When they're talking globally, they're not focusing on what they think the problems are here, you know, and they're starting to see there is other issues all around the world, you know.
So that was like an accredited course for the teachers called Tidal, and then there was also the play was developed. The street theatre that I saw was by 2 artists, Jenny MacDonald and Orla Hassan. And so then it was Jenny I approached about being able to help us with this, because it wasn't an area of my expertise.
We went into schools first to do workshops to find out what issues they thought were important, what information they had about those issues, what opinions they had about those issues. And when we did that, what came back to us fundamentally was that the issues themselves change, but the most important thing was a feeling of thought control, a feeling of kind of media particularly, but messages from media, from parents, peer pressure, pressure to consume, advertising, all of All of those voices were what really came back to us from the young people. So we then thought, okay, let's not just focus on 1 or 2 issues, let's focus on maybe the whole mechanism. And because it was important to us not to be didactic, not to come down with any kind of partisan point of view about any particular issue, but to actually engage people in making their own opinions, forming their own thoughts, and ultimately taking their own actions. So that's where we got to from the exploratory workshops that led to the writing of the play.
Lads, can you fill up the front 2 rows, please?
A pilot was written of the play in June 2009, and then we worked with students at Oak Grove College to get their feedback and see if it was going to be accessible and interesting and informative for them as a piece of theatre.
So we're basically inviting you into like a rehearsed reading. The actors can have their scripts in their hands. We've got the whole summer to work on this after we show it to you. So this
and what was really, I guess, interesting in that process was the realization that in trying to make the link to the rest of the world, what seemed to work really well with that Oak Grove group, and I think ultimately with the play we ended up with, was the areas where the rest of the world is right here at home, so to speak. So, for example, we had a very small character in the play initially who was a father who was a bit of an naysayer and was kind of negative about everything his son came up with, all his son's ideas.
Yeah. What are they now?
They're fair trade chocolate biscuits.
Fair trade now? Oh, people working hard for their money.
Yep.
And when we did the pilot, we realized that that character was the most humorous, the most accessible to the young people on that day, and they said their feedback was more of the father, more of the classroom, more of the peer relationships. So what I took away most from that day was, okay, we have to develop what's very close to home and really express and explore that if we're going to make a bridge from that to what's far from home. And that bridge is really through the character of Aloho, but Aloho comes right into the home. She's in some respect at dinner with the family. She ends up in the classroom, and that's all like a little bit magical and mysterious. We don't quite know why or how.
So what do you do over there?
I go to school when there's time, but I work a lot on the family farm.
So you get to cut school just to work on a farm? Are you serious? That's class. If I came over, could I do that?
So it was then revised over that summer, and the first production was then September 21st.
So the play took to the road in September, and it was a huge success. The young people loved it. I think it was different to anything they'd seen before, and it was fun as well as, you know, informative. And they loved the actors as well because they were young and lively, and the workshops afterwards were a huge success as well.
What's good about it is the information they tell you. And if you're just doing all reading, some people wouldn't be interested in it.
When something's funny, it makes you remember it more. When you watch the play and you got a laugh, so when you tell people, you remember what they talked about, like, you know, before and after the joke.
The workshops after it were a great way, to learn stuff. Trillions of pounds is being used for weapons and stuff when it can be used for food for other people.
Fair trade, like a cup of tea. That doesn't make
In the
any
play,
sense.
I do James, Hank, Jim, Belinda, and Mr. Social Justice. The one thing that I would like them to come away with is a notion of critical thinking, you know, about media and stuff like that, and just don't necessarily have to be told what to think all the time. Just try and think your own ideas.
What's it like living in the Congo? Well, the credit crunch is hard, as every time we lend money, they put
One of the biggest impacts that this play can have is empowering the young people who see the show, inspired by the characters they see. The show, along with the workshop, all leads towards them having their own ideas to make their own mark on the world.
A lot of our education system happens from the neck up. When you get people moving, you know, when we move our body in different ways, different parts of our brain open. When we play, we discover things. Also, I think a lot of issues, especially the way the planet is right now and the media, there's so much negativity and there's so much doomsday kind of prophesizing, and so I think a little bit of play, a little bit of humor particularly, is a much lighter, more positive, more hopeful, and ultimately, therefore, I would say, more beneficial.
A lot of it was about encouraging critical thinking in young people and to question things. We wanted them to critically be, I suppose, active citizens that wanted to find their role. And theatre's brilliant for that, and it's great because you get into the character, and in a very short space of time you kind of learnt a lot, you know, without even realising it.
Each group is so different. You have kids who want to get up and do the drama, you have kids who just want reserved, who don't want to speak to each other, but it's nice to see the barriers break down. We just need to give them a bit of hope, you know, and say you can do this. So here's the issues, here's the action project, here's things that you can be doing, and you can do it. You know, you can.
I'm always constantly amazed by the amount they've remembered from the play. Like, we'd ask them questions about like what were the issues that were encountered in the play, and they just list off everything.
That group of young people are continuing to be very engaged in other ways. One of the schools wants to get involved on the issue of fair trade and child labour. Another of the schools wants to get involved looking at issues of the environment and water particularly. So I think that engagement is still there, and those young people are in all kinds of ways being very active citizens in their communities.
For the last year we wanted to engage the general public, but it's a very different setting to a formal education setting. We don't have the general public for 2 hours or 3 hours where we can perform the play and debrief it. So we had to think a bit differently about it, and I suppose one of the strongest things that came out of the play and out of the research with the young people was this idea about connection, interdependence, you know, how we connect with the rest of the world. We just took the strongest points of the play and converted them into these characters that were going to go out on the street. What we wanted people to do was to question their own lives, to reflect it back on us, because very often we're quick to judge other people in other parts of the world, but actually what it comes down to, and the only thing you really can change, is yourself. Really, that's what the bubbles were doing, and from the play I suppose it was that question, developing critical thinking skills, questioning approach that led to the bubbles.
When it came to going to the street, we really wanted to I guess, engage with as many people as possible. So we kind of turned it around and we thought, how would people from elsewhere, you know, rather than seeing how James understands Aloho, who's from another place, how would characters from another place understand life here?
Why are all you people dressed the same?
Our feeling was that on the street, if you preach, you'll instantly antagonize, and so we wanted actually to kind of gently invite people into a conversation, and have it be a conversation about how do we live, and you know, is it working?
Why? Because people are greedy. Why? Because they have too much power. Why do people have too much power? Because the government gives it to them. Because they have credit cards. Because they were born rich. Because they were born rich.
It's through the bubble's naivety we hope allowed the public to ask questions in their own life. Imagine walking through the town, you see this bubble, this character dressed up with this kind of big bubble structure. Kind of makes you stop and think. So we hope that it took people out of their comfort zone and made them ask questions about themselves in relation to these global issues.
These are the Millennium Development Goals, yeah? There's 8 of them. So this is to try and take a shot on one of them, see which one you hit.
This lady's going for child health as the most important Millennium Development Goal. Let's see if she can hit it.
Why should the international development budget be protected at times when other budgets are going to be cut? And we have to show, well, sorry, it's a matter of global justice that we make good these monies and these commitments.
The idea that people aren't interested
It's disturbing things, sort of like the ripple effect, dropping a stone in the water and so on, that helps that to spread out and reach people. So
the title of the conference was Be the Change You Wish to See. As we learned through the play and the engagement with the general public, we realised that we had to almost go back to ourselves. So we're talking about these big Millennium Development Goals, but there was a real need to kind of bring it back and think about what is the change we want to see, how can we be part of that? And that's, I suppose, where the title of the conference came from.
Because you go into, say, a local school, any time, Christmas play, anything like that there, and you have the place full with the parents, the grandparents, the uncles, the aunts. Why can that not be harnessed for action?
The conference was an amazing opportunity to engage the general public a wee bit more in depth, so people that would maybe slightly open the door with. This was a chance to really go for it a whole day with people from all different backgrounds, from the general public, maybe from related work areas, maybe not. And we just thought we'd take that opportunity, and instead of, we have the report and the DVD and things to disseminate the learning and the impact from the project, so we just felt maybe it was more important to use that time to really engage with people and see what change we wanted to see and make it more active. The feedback was phenomenal, and the conference itself at the end was my favourite. But I loved the idea that this play that was informed by young people. The play actually was performed to adults, and it was a play that was informed and designed for young people, and I think it actually worked better with adults. And the adults were really engaging with it. Found it funny, and I thought, well, that's a testament to it. And the people at that conference were very passionate. We still hear from them now. What I would love, if it happened now, would be for some of the young people that had maybe seen the play and been involved in a campaign to take something on, to kind of be politically active, in their school or their community. That would be the icing on the cake. I would just love to see that could change their life, or make them be more engaged with these issues or want to make a difference.